Okay, just welcome to everybody. We are in Caracas, Venezuela. It's 11 o'clock a.m. local time, and we are starting the webinar that TESOL and AVEALMEC, Venezuela CALL Association, are preparing every month for you. Go ahead, Miguel. Let me transfer the audio. Are you going to use the camera too? Can I activate the camera, or we prefer to use the audio?
I noticed a student who was behaving in a very peculiar way, and I didn't know what to do. I talked to the principal, and the principal told me something like, oops, I forgot to tell you, Miguel, that this guy, he's 28, 29 years old, but he behaves like a child. And I asked her, what can I do about it? And she said, well, you are a very creative teacher, so try to think of way to provide support to this student. And that's what I did. I tried to find ways to make the student feel home. I didn't have much experience back then, so I tried to make him feel home, trying to encourage the child to participate, but also the adult when having homeworks and responsibilities related to the course. I do remember a student from this same group asked me once, a teacher, because they call us here in Venezuela teachers, teacher, why do we have to have a student in the classroom who has been causing a lot of problems? And my answer was, what came to my mind was a quote, it is not the perfect, but the imperfect who needs love. And he didn't say anything. He went home, and surprisingly, the next day, he was sitting next to this guy helping him. And I remember what I believe is that he got the message. I mean, all of us are imperfect. No one is perfect. So we all need help at one point in lower degree, higher degree, but at some point in our lives, we always need help. And also, for some reason, we have a very narrow sense of the word disability. We always think about someone who cannot walk well, or someone who cannot communicate, or someone who cannot see. But there is a broader sense of the word disability, and that's the one we have to take into account, because one way or another, we have got a certain type of disability. So that was one experience. In this intensive course, another intensive crash course, there was a student without hands, no hands at all. He suffered this accident in an oil rig in the western part of the country, in Maracaibo, and his wife was his hands. And it was a wonderful experience because they were participating a lot, they were smiling a lot, but I had to think about ways to evaluate the student. And just to make sure that I was getting his answers, not his wife's answers. That was a wonderful experience. And another reason is that I do remember as a child, I used to play with his cousin, and we had a lot of fun. Her name is Marlene, and she is deaf. But we never thought about her as a deaf person. And I do believe the reason why was the family. The family never made fun of her or talked about her in a disrespectful way. They always talked about her as Marlene, never as a deaf cousin. So maybe that's why we felt that she was a child who talked in a different way. So we didn't care that much about her deafness. And I do believe that's important in the classroom because we are modeling. And if teachers treat a person with disability right, the rest of the students are going to do the same. It doesn't matter if they're children, teenagers, or adults. So maybe those are the reasons why I became interested in providing support to students with disabilities. Now, over the last couple of years, the ELT community have become interested in diversity. And people from the ELT community have started to talk about the LGBT community, lesbian, gays, bisexual, transgenders people, and not only about the students, but about the teachers, the materials. And that's an interesting move in the ELT community because we didn't talk about this. It was a taboo thing to talk about in the classroom. That was like 3 years ago. That was in 2012. And people are talking a lot about this community, how to provide support to them. Let me go back to the first. Okay. Now, also, people from TESOL, they created the ILGBTF Forum just to deal with these issues about people who have a different sexual orientation, teachers, students, and all that. Now, in connection to disability, I do remember 3 years ago in Glasgow, these people, the disabled access friendly, they talked about this web page. It's an amazing web page which is about mobility disability, but it is related to the ELT community because they are inviting teachers to create lessons, readings, use video clips. What for? For students to learn English, but at the same time to become familiar with people with disability, in this case, mobility disability. So once again, that's an amazing move in the ELT community to start dealing with issues related to diversity and especially about people with disability. Now, there is this article, the iTDi community, the International Teacher Development Institute, is another example. They've got a blog, and in this blog, they have been talking about different issues, and one of them is related to special needs issue. There you can see Naomi, and there she's talking about deaf students, how to deal with them, how to provide help to these students. But the British Council last year, they started the Special Educational Needs course. And it is a fantastic course because they provide the concepts, the strategies, and there's a lot of reflections and examples on how to deal with the students with disabilities. And the content is really interesting because they have a broader notion of disability. They, for example, let me click here, we learn a little bit about gifted and talented learners. They are above the average, and since they are above the average, they are going to have problems in the classroom. Also about multicultural groups. I would have never thought about them as part of, a special educational needs group, but they are, because when they are in a different culture, they are getting problems in the language classroom. Dyspraxia, which is related to coordination, how to coordinate your hands and legs and all that stuff, which is related to motor disability up to a certain point. And the problem with these students is that it is very difficult for them to write, to type, and sometimes they need help from others. Also information about assessment, about ADHD, most of us are familiar with it. Autism spectrum disorder and Asperger, speech and language difficulties, sensory disability, dyslexia, social, emotional, and behavioral difficulties. So as you can see, there's been an interesting move in the ELT community to care, to worry, to think a little bit about people with disabilities, specifically about students with disabilities. Now, why I decided to talk about this, I talked about this last year in an international event as well, and now I'm talking about it to you because of this article. And I do recommend you to read it. I'm going to share the link in a minute. And this article inspired me to talk about this. It was written by Patrick Jackson. Hey teacher, what are you for? And there is a part in this article that caught my attention. And here, Patrick is saying that our responsibility goes beyond teaching skills or knowledge to our students. We have also a social responsibility. We have to show our students that the world is not only about working and being the best worker or a professional in the world, but that they need to care about others. And teachers are responsible for teaching our students how to do that. We can cause an impact on our students to learn how to deal with people who are part of different communities, who are part of the diversity. And in this case, students with disabilities. So this article was my inspiration to talk about this. Now, one of the things that I've been reflecting about is the following. And maybe it's just not here, it's here. Okay. What the ELT community has been doing is talking a lot about strategies, what to do in the classroom. Oh, Julie's here. Let me read what, I'm going to read what Julie wrote on behalf of Katie and Paul. Well, it's my pleasure, Julie. You are doing a fantastic job in the Disabled Access Friendly page and creating all those lessons and all that stuff. Yes, and you're right. You won an award. That's true. And congratulations. Okay, so what I wanted to say is that generally in the ELT community, we worried about strategies to help our students in the classroom. And that's all right, and that's really important. We need to learn how to do that, how to provide support to someone who's deaf, someone who is blind, someone who has got a certain mobility disability. But what about outside the classroom? Does our responsibility stop in the classroom? I do believe it's got to go beyond the classroom, because the way, if you see this question mark here, everything is black here. And that's the way our students with disability sees the university or the school every time they leave the classroom, every time they are outside the classroom, because sometimes there is no help, there is not support. Okay, you are going to tell me, well, but I'm almost certain there is a psychologist or a special unit service that can help the students. Yes, that's true. But they need, but that's not enough. They need to feel that they are part of a community. They need to feel that there is a space where they get support, where they get orientation. And that should happen not only in the classroom, but outside the classroom. And I think we should talk about this, about our responsibility to create groups that provide support to our students at the university, language institutions, and all that. Why? Because the issue about disability is or has not been normalized. It's like technology. The issue of technology is different from country to country. In South America, the issue of disability has not been normalized. And for disability to become normalized, we have to think about accessibility. Are our universities, institutions, schools accessible? And when I talk about accessibility, I'm not only talking about architectural access. I'm talking about products and services, Braille, the JAWS, text-to-speech software. I'm talking also about the attitude. And the attitude is the most important thing that we have to take into account, because that's the most awful barrier for a student with disabilities, when the teacher doesn't care, when the classmate doesn't care, when the principal doesn't care. So that's why, for me, it's really important to learn on how we can provide support to students with disabilities. Now, let's wait a little bit. Okay. Now, in our school, the School of Librarianship at Universidad Central de Venezuela, we decided to create a support group, which is called CAEDEVA. The name is right here, CAEDEVA. Committed to support students with disability from the School of Librarianship. Why did we decide to create this support group? We decided to create this support group because we noticed in our classrooms students who were invisible. They were lonely. No one was talking to them. They were being marginalized. They were being ostracized by the community, by teachers, students, employees, everybody. And what was happening with this situation is that they were failing and they were dropping out. So we, two teachers and two students, we got together. We thought about ways in which we could help the student get support, start and finish the career. And to do that, we created this support group called CAEDEVA. It became a legal organization in 2004. And since then, we have been working to provide support to students with disabilities outside the classroom. And at the very beginning, it was made up by 2 teachers, an English teacher, a history teacher, and 2 students from the School of Librarianship. And little by little, the group became an organization of students with disability and without disabilities, and 2 teachers. Now, why did we decide to create this organization? Well, those words and phrases represent CAEDEVA, what we are, what we do. Number 1, inclusion. What happens at the universities, institutions, and schools? That we integrate students. That is, okay, you are in the classroom, see what you're gonna do. It is not my responsibility to help you. You are here. That's integration. Inclusion is when the teachers think about ways to make the class accessible by adapting the content, by thinking about ways to create equal opportunities to the students. And the same thing goes for classmates. But when the teacher provides the example, the students follow the teacher. The students follow the teacher. So inclusion is more important for us than integration. Academic support, I'm going to talk about that, how CAEDEVA provides academic support, and also which type of raising awareness activities we also have all year round in our school. Equal opportunities, because if we want our students to succeed, we have to create situations in which they are going to be able to reach objectives. If you don't do that, you are once again marginalizing, ostracizing the student. And accessibility. Accessibility, once again, not only the classroom, the space to make it accessible, or products and services, a laptop, the JAWS, but my attitude as a teacher, my willingness to provide support, my willingness to learn about your disability and help you. So that's what CAEDEVA is all about. Now, which types of disabilities do we have in our school? In fact, it's the school in the university that has got the highest number of students with disability studying librarianship. Why? Because students with disability have learned that there is an accessible organization there that provides support to students with disabilities. So we have physical disability, and by physical disability, teachers have to learn that there are different degrees. It is not just someone who has got a wheelchair, but it's someone who is using, for example, a walker. Okay, so that person is going to need support, because maybe that person who is using just a walker, cognitively speaking, he's got no problem. He or she can move, but very slowly. So if the class starts at 5 o'clock, you have to take that into account, that he's not going to arrive on time. So you have to give him or her the chance to arrive 10 or 15 minutes later, but not only to them, to everybody. Because if you provide support just to this student, the rest of the students are going to say, why are you giving a special treatment to this student? So whenever you think of adapting, you have to think about everybody, not only the student who has got the disability. And you are going to see that everybody is going to be benefited when you do that. So as I was telling you, physical disability, you have to think about degrees. Someone who is carrying a walker. What about if it is someone who has got a knock knees? I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I'm going to show you a picture of someone who has got knock knees, and you are going to understand. There's the picture. So someone who has got knock knees, it is going to be difficult for her to go from one place to another. It is going to take some time for her or him, once again, to go from one place to another. So we have to think about it. When we're thinking about physical disability, we have to think about, does he have his hands compromised, his legs compromised? What about communication? So you have to think about all that, and based on that, you are going to provide the right support to the student. sensory disability, we are thinking about deaf students, we are thinking about visual impairment, blind students, and also blind deaf students. So also there are degrees. So depending on the degree, you are going to provide help to students with disability. Because if it is severe blindness, you will have to think about technology. If it is someone who's got partial blindness, maybe you will have to change the size of the font. What about psychiatric disability? Psychiatric disability, which is a very serious one. Well, you have to learn which type of psychiatric disability the student have, and generally you will have to send this student to a specialist. But you will have to know if the student is being medicated or not. Intellectual disability also has got different degrees: severe, moderate. So you have, depending on this disability, once again, you're going to provide support to the students. Autism spectrum disorder, we've got Asperger people. Those are the ones who can generally go to the university, study, and get a career. So those are the types of disabilities we have in our school. Now, what kind of academic support we provide to our students? I just want to make sure if you're still listening to me, or there are sound problems. No sound problems? Okay. Okay, great. So what about the academic support CAEDEVA provides to students before the semester? Before the semester, we help students during the enrollment. What does that mean? We help students to choose the subjects, how many subjects they are going to choose, and which teachers they are going to enroll their subject in. Why a certain number of subjects? Because it is going to depend on the disability or the resources available for the students to successfully start and finish a certain subject. So we provide support during this process. Also, before the semester starts, we plan meetings with the teachers to let them know about these students, what type of disability, and what they can do. These meetings, if we cannot hold the meeting, we go to each classroom during the first week to talk to each of the students to let them know about these students. Okay, now I'm going to the next one. Okay, what about during the semester? During the semester, we keep track of the things the student is doing during the semester. Performance, is everything okay? If they need help in any of the subjects, if we need to talk to the teachers, etc., etc., etc. This can be done formal or informally. Formally, because we plan a meeting, or when we see our students in the classrooms or in the hallways. At the end of the semester. At the end of the semester, what we do is to evaluate performance. What happens to them? Did they pass the subjects? They didn't? What happens? And what to do in the case that they failed any subject. That's the academic support. What about the raising awareness activities? The raising awareness activities, we offer workshops for the students, for teachers, for the faculty, for other faculties at the university, or organizations in the university that need to learn about disabilities. We also organize an event. It's an annual event in November before the International Day for People with Disabilities. And it's an event where we offer conferences, presentations, exhibitions, and concerts related to disability. Each year, we think about a certain type of disability, and we invite experts. The exhibitions, by the way, in the conferences, we always invite people with and without disability. In the exhibitions, we always invite people with and without disabilities to exhibit their work. Concerts, the same thing. We organize concerts with students with or without disability to participate in these activities. So during this, during 2 or 3 days of this event, we provide information to our community, the university, and also public in general to learn about disability. Um, Other activities. We also organize activities for institutions outside the classroom. For example, for the British Council last year, we organized a photographic exhibition, a photography exhibition, and this exhibition was organized by 3 students without disability who like photography, and they took pictures to students with disabilities from our schools and the faculty, and related these pictures to inclusive language. By inclusive language, I refer to using the right words to talk to someone with disabilities. And it was a fantastic experience. And also, apart from this exhibition, we organized presentations related to disability in the British Council. Also, our organization has got a community service project. The service community project is about providing accessibility in our libraries of the faculty. And when we talk about accessibility, we are talking about architectural access, we are talking about products and services, and training the staff. What happens with this experience? That students from the school are learning to deal with potential users in the library and archives. And it's a fantastic experience because they learn about how to deal with a user who can potentially have a disability, but also they learn a lot about disability, and the way they see people changes completely. So that's one of the things that our organization is also doing. Okay, now my question is, are teachers apt for social change? And for social change, I mean in the classroom and outside the classroom. I think we are not still ready. There's a lot to learn. And there are several reasons. Normalization, training. I do believe, for example, in Venezuela, there is a university where teachers are trained to become teachers. And there is not a subject, a workshop, a seminar, anything related to diversity and the language classroom. And I think this is important because if you train teachers, when they get to the classroom, they know what to do with the students with disabilities. At the universities, teachers are not trained to deal with the students with disabilities. We need to train teachers just exactly what's happening with technologies. Training is a key word. Also, the attitude. The attitude, as I said before, is one of the most terrible barriers a person with disability can find. So we need to change people's attitude. Is it possible? Yes. And once again, I just described an example on how you can change people's attitude. Because now in our school, we've got more teachers and more students. We need to provide support to students with disabilities. Are teachers apt for social change in the classroom? In our region, in Latin America, I don't think so. We still need to train teachers. Teachers need to understand that it is their responsibility to learn, to provide support to students with disabilities. I have heard teachers saying at the university, it is not my responsibility. Well, it is your responsibility, not only by law, but because you are dealing with human beings. Human beings have got the right to learn and to have a career. So it's going to take time once again. What we have to do in the classroom, but we have to do it. Let me give you a very simple example in the language classroom. I'm not talking about the rest of the subjects. What happens? We learn a lot about methodologies and approaches. We talk about total physical response. We talk about the silent rate, community language learning, Suggestopedia, whole language, multiple intelligences, the lexical approach, competency-based language teaching, communicative language approach, the natural approach, cooperative language learning, content-based instruction, task-based language teaching. We are talking about document. We are talking about gamification. We are talking about technology. Are we taking into account students with disability when we think about those methodologies and approaches? I don't think so. We're always thinking about a student without disability when we are thinking about all those methodologies and approaches. But we are leaving behind students with disabilities. Why? Lack of training. Why? Also attitudes. Why? Yes, sometimes there are no resources, but not having resources is not a reason for not providing support. Are teachers apt for social change outside the classroom? I don't think so. Yes, that's right, Andres. Agency is the keyword. Are we providing support to students outside the classroom? Are there organizations similar to the ones we have at the universities, institutions that guarantee that students get support academically speaking, or to raise awareness in our communities? No, they're not. We are not ready yet to do that, but we can do it. Once again, CAEDEVA is an example of the things we can do outside the classroom. And an organization like that one is needed because universities in our country, and I do believe it's the same thing in most countries, are not accessible enough for our students to have an independent life at universities. So we do need organizations that provide support outside the classroom. Now, what are the benefits of providing support outside the classroom? Well, in our university, we have large groups from 30 to 100 students in one classroom. That's going to be really difficult to provide individualized attention to students. So if there is an organization like CAEDEVA, we are going to provide individualized attention to our students. We can guarantee that our students are going to start and finish their career. In our school, 5 students have already graduated as librarians or working in archives. They have different disabilities, mobility disability, Asperger, intellectual disability, and all that. When we have an organization like CAEDEVA, there is an academic space that is telling them, our students, that they are part of the community. And we can also show the students how to become part of the community, because there is a group of people who are willing to show them how to do that. So there are benefits of having an organization like CAEDEVA, yes, and there are many reasons to do that. Now, just to sum up a little bit, this is the way I see disability, not only in the language classroom, but at the university school. We have to think about providing support inside the classroom and outside the classroom, and there are basic notions that we are all going to need. When it is inside the classroom, we have to think about the curriculum, we have to think about the syllabus and lessons, adapting, providing equal opportunities, the materials we are using. We have to think about pedagogical strategies depending on the type of disability, and also the training. Do I need training? Where do I go to get this training? Outside the classroom, if I want to create an organization to provide support, I have to think about where I'm going to be having the meetings. At the university, outside the university, better if it is at the university. Which type of activities are we going to organize? Academic, raising awareness activities, community service project, contacts. That's really important. You need to meet people, experts, not only psychologists, but people with experience related to disability, to invite them to participate in your activities, workshops, events, etc., and also to provide support. Finance, if you are going to organize an event, where you are going to get the money from. And that's still an issue for us, but we are learning how to get money to organize events. Social networks is important, not only to keep in touch with the organization or support group, but also to let people know about the work that you are doing. Counseling, who is going to help you when you cannot provide support to a student with disability, where to go, where the specialist is, and training. Training is important. We have learned a lot from the experience of having students in the classroom, but training has been key for people participating in this organization. Now, which basic notions we need to have? What's disability? How do we see disability in our country? There are different models, and there are 3 basic models: the medical model, the social model, and the functional diverse model. If I feel pity for my student, oh, poor thing, he cannot walk, let me help him, I am in the medical model. And based on that, I am going to provide help. If I am in the social model, I'm going to see him as part of the society and will try to find ways to provide equal opportunities. Now, if I believe that for my student to be successful, I need to adapt the classroom, I need certain technical help, and that my attitude needs to change, so then I am in the functional diverse model. So depending on that, you are going to provide support. And also, we need to learn about accessibility. Disability is quite related to disability. If we make our classroom accessible, our students are going to be successful. And I'm not talking about feeling pity for the student or providing a special treatment to them. Providing opportunities so he can succeed or fail, but at least you provided the opportunities, because they can fail just like anybody else and take the subject again, but provided you sort of different opportunities for him or her to learn. Okay, now this is a very little experiment, because teachers, they always tell you, I know how to identify students with disabilities, but I don't think it is that easy. Sometimes it is easy, sometimes it is not. So what you are going to do in the chat box, as you can see, Ingrid is there, Ramon is there, and Diego is there. Can you identify the type of disability they have got? Remember that we've got mobility disability, visual impairment, hearing impairment, Asperger, a different type of disability. Which type of disability do you think Ingrid has got? What about Ramon? What about Diego? I'm going to give you some minutes for you to think. She, Ingrid. Okay. Ingrid is deaf. Oh, come on, Julie. You know about Ramon. Yes, you're right. You're cheating. What about Diego, Julie? What about Ingrid? What about them? What do you think about Ingrid? Evelyn believes she's blind. And, and Julie believes he has got a motor disability. What about Diego? What about Diego? They look, okay, it's very individual. Okay, let's have a look. The pictures. Okay, so Ingrid, she has got a mobility disability. Okay, as you can see, she's got knocked knees, so it takes time for her to get to the classroom. She also has got some issues with her hands, so she writes very slowly. She graduated 2 years ago, and she's working at a library in an institution in our country. She's a wonderful person. Ramon, he uses a walker. He needs time to get to the university as well, okay? He writes a little bit slow, but not as slow as Ingrid, okay? And he is a character. And his story is, he's got a fantastic story, especially the way he realized he couldn't walk. So Ramon, he's got a mobility disability. Diego is blind, as you can see. He's using this technical help here. But Diego is the best student in our school. He has been awarded 3 times best student in our school, and he will graduate next year. He is so wonderful. He's got a lot of abilities using the computers, so he uses a laptop and the JAWS to solve all his problems. So he's an amazing student. And they are part of our organization. What about these guys here? What do you think about Johan, Ariane, Jose, and Ivan? Which type of disabilities do you think they've got? Johan, Ariane, Jose, and Ivan. Guess. Which type of disability they have got? What about Johan? What about Ariani? What about Jose? What about Ivan? Which one of this? There are 4 people. Johan, Ariani, Jose, Ivan. What about the rest? What do you think? Just guess. So you will see it's just not that easy to identify a student with disability. Exactly, that's what happens. Jose? Jose Asperger. Okay. Okay. Yes, that's right. That's what I wanted to realize, Julie, that sometimes teachers tend to believe that a disability is what we can visually see. Someone on a wheelchair or someone who has to get technical help, but it's just not that easy. And we have to learn how to identify students with disabilities. For example, Johan is Asperger, okay? He's Asperger. And like most Aspergers, they are different. He talks like an old man, and he behaves like an old man. What's amazing about Asperger people is how they learn to develop social skills at the university. Right now, he is in the 3rd semester, and he's got lots of friends, and he is a leader. Okay, and he behaves like an old friend, like an old man, and his father is always with him, not in the classroom, but his father is always next to him. Ariani has no disability at all. She's a wonderful student, no disabilities. Jose is deaf, and he has got severe deafness. He uses a hearing device, but he cannot really listen to any sound. What's the problem with Jose? Spanish. It's difficult for him to write and read well in Spanish. And he is used to talking to deaf people, not to hearing people, and that's a problem. So right now we are training Jose as well as another student with disability in our school, and they have a session with me each Friday. So we are working a little bit with Spanish, how to read, how to write to a hearing audience, not to deaf people. And the last one, Ivan, he has no disability at all. He's another wonderful student from our school. And those are students, Ivan and Ariani, the type of the students are always willing to learn, to help in our organization. Okay, so well, that's the end of the presentation. I don't know if you have any questions or comments that you would like to make. That's right, Andres. So comments, questions?
Yes, Miguel, I have some questions, and I'm very, very curious about how to deal with this, because I also receive students with disabilities, and sometimes we don't know as English teachers how to handle that. Sometimes we have some ideas, or maybe we can read on the web about how to do this or that, and we're kind of sensitive, but we don't know how to start, where to find all the information you were talking about, how to join those social networks. Is it possible, do you think it's possible to create a special education group for TESOL? Because that is one of the main ideas we have, is not only to train teachers in the field, in this specific area, but also to reach all those students we also have at the university level, or maybe in high school and in elementary schools, and we don't know as teachers what to do with it. we just receive all students and we have to prepare a lesson plan or something for everybody, but we don't know how to teach those students with special needs. You as an English teacher maybe can follow us or help us in the right track and the right way to find that help. I don't know if you can tell us a little bit more as an English teacher how we can do that and how then TESOL can contribute to the area.
Okay. Well, my presentation is more about providing support outside the classroom, because inside the classroom, there are lots of websites and institutions, organizations that are willing to train teachers to learn how to deal with the students. The thing is that teachers, when they see a student with disability, they tend to classify him or her as someone who's not going to be able to reach objective, cognitively speaking. He's not smart, so I'm not going to worry about him. And they stop there and ignore the student. Now, if you notice that there's someone who's got a disability and you want to do something, you can find lots of information by yourself on the net. As I said before, the British Council is offering a course, but also you can go to your institution. In our university, there is a special unit service where you can go and ask questions about how to provide support to students with disabilities. And I'm almost certain that all universities, they've got somewhere, a place to go where teachers can get information about it. How have I learned to deal with my students? Because I Google, I check out what universities are doing, and from those experiences, I try to do more or less the same in the classroom. Why? Because I was not trained to deal with a student with disabilities. But that's not a reason for me to ignore a student. All teachers have got the responsibility, especially teachers. I'm not talking about any other type of professional. I'm talking about teachers, but generally it is teachers the ones who ignore the student with disabilities in the classroom. It's our responsibility to find ways to provide help to our students. We're creative people. We know where to go, what to do to help our students. Is it possible to create a SIG or something related to disability? So yes, it is possible. It is possible. I mean, I think it's a must, because each day, especially in our country, by law, all universities must receive a student with disabilities. And each year, we are getting more and more students with disability. So yes, that's something we've got to do. Okay. Julie wrote a message. Yeah, Julie would be great if I wanted to share a little bit about the organization. Let me see if I can see it here. Okay, and this is something I'm going to share with you. Julie, there you can see more or less what we're doing, some of the activities that we've been doing. The university, especially the organization, that's our YouTube channel. And there you're going to see what we are doing, because we do not only provide academic support to people in our school or also organize racial awareness activities. We also provide supports to some other institutions. So for example, each year we help deliver toys to kids in hospitals and stuff like that. So that's also an important activity for our students to learn about it. There is this link. So far, yes, they should have links. I've got the link for the, wait a little bit, it's right, I think it's this one, yes, this one. This is the link for the their course, okay? Okay. But I'm sure, Julie, that in the Teaching English website, they have got several discussions on disability, about disability in the language classroom. Almost certain. Most of the English data don't mention techniques. The answer is very clear. Victor, you're asking Most of English textbooks don't mention techniques or strategies to work with disabled students. Why? Well, that's already easy, because the people who are responsible to create the materials, they don't care. And that's the answer. They don't care. They find diversity sometimes a taboo thing, especially because it's difficult to how you are going to represent someone who is disabled in the book, or someone who is part of the LGBT community, or dealing sometimes with certain religious and political issues. So what they just turn their head and they don't deal with it, and they just design content that's for people we consider normal. And that normal people, that's debatable. As I said before, we all have got a disability in its broader sense. Yeah, that, Andres, that has to do what you're saying there. In our country, there's a lot of talk about disability, yet almost no standards and practices outside the health providing community. It's got to do with accessibility again, okay? Because in our country, we are talking about disabled people, but just in the paper. In the practice, you don't see examples that you can feel that this is an accessible city, an accessible country for people to fully develop as an individual in our society. So what happens, we have to find ways, especially teachers, I think teachers are key to sensitize people about issues related to disability. A very good example, once again, is the Disabled Access Friendly page. They are inviting teachers to create lessons where students learn English, but they also learn about mobility disability. That's an excellent way to sensitize people who are going to become professionals in the future, people who are going to be doing or contributing to our society. No, they are not, Victor, and we know the thing. We know that editorials, they don't care about people with disabilities. Maybe there are very, very, very few editorials, Victor, that are very slowly, gradually including pictures where you can see someone on a wheelchair. But there are different types of disabilities. And you don't see that in the materials that are available for teachers to teach English. We have blind students training teachers, and our teachers do classes conducted people trying to see. Yeah, I mean, I do believe that each university, since this is not an accessible country and we don't have accessible universities, or at least in 100%, we have to think of ways to provide support to students with disabilities inside but outside the classroom as well. Yes, what I was saying before, whenever we are thinking about approaches and methodologies, Andres and everybody, we have to think about some of the people, not the people we consider are average people or normal people. We have to think about those who are above or below average people. That's right. There's always, Nayib, a way to find support, if not in our universities outside the university. That's right. But what I'm happy about is that there is a growing interest in the ELT community about this issue. So Victor, I believe that in the future, we are going to see in these materials more people with disability, people belonging to different diverse groups.
Well, Miguel, we have to start ending the session. I'm sorry for interrupting you. This is a very interesting topic. We're all very interested in learning more. We really need it because it's part of our daily practice. We need to learn more about how to deal with this, how to learn more about the topic, how to be efficient in the sense that we can approach all those students with disabilities and how to engage our colleagues to work with them and how to help them, how to support them. One of our ideas of offering this topic in the TESOL and AVEALMEC webinar is that we are really interested in engaging and encouraging teachers who are working with students with disability, but also those teachers with disabilities we have as TESOL members. And we've been facing some trouble trying to help a teacher who's going to make a presentation at our upcoming national convention. His name is Eugenio Ravelo. He's coming from Merida. We have a wonderful project there with deaf teachers, and they're training teachers in the area. So we would really like to know and invite everybody to join that session that will be on July the 18th, after the first plenary we have in the morning. And it would be great to know more about what they do in Merida, how they're going over the different obstacles we face in Venezuela. And it's a great opportunity to invite all those who are interested in the same area. Well, please join us at the convention because we're trying to get that group I was telling you about the special education group. All those who are interested, please join us, and let's try to get together in order to organize the group and to reach all those teachers who are doing some research in the area. I don't know if you remember the name. I think it's Luis Alarcón or Luis Alajon. Do you remember, Miguel? He was telling us about his research work, and it has to do with disabilities and special education. So you are all invited to join us. Thank you very much again, Miguel. There are no words to say thank you. Because you're always contributing with TESOL and AVEALMEC. You are an inspiration for all of us in many ways, not only as an English teacher, but also as an ICT ELT teacher trainer, and in this area where I've seen your work, and I'm really impressed about what you do in iTDi and all those participants there. Your job there is amazing. The whole faculty is very proud about that. And well, we're just starting, giving the first steps, learning on how to work with this. Thank you very much for attending this session, everybody. Have a great weekend. You may say your final words, Miguel, before closing the session. Thank you very much again. Have a very nice weekend, and hope to see you all at the convention. Have a very nice Saturday, Sunday, and see you soon. Miguel, the floor is yours, so you may say goodbye.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having attended this session. And it's always really, really nice when I can share my experience on issues related to disability. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alejandra, Victor, Nair.